Welcome friends, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for checking out today's update on pollinators and a couple of finding boxes we're going to build, along with some updates on the various projects where we've planted things, because there's a lot going on in the garden right now and I want you all to see it. We got to celebrate successes. We also have to point out failures, and I'm okay doing both, because you're not always going to win in the garden, but you're going to get mostly wins, at least if you follow some of the advice I'm giving you. On that note, let's check it out. So just a few weeks ago, we built and planted our potato beds. That's right, these are raised planter beds that are raised up off the ground in addition to being a raised bed. So right now we're at another point where we need to build up or mound up around our growing potato plants. That's one of the updates for today. The potatoes are going great guns. Both purple, Yukon Gold, and red potatoes are sprouting like crazy. Look at all the growth on these, and they need to be supported, which means we have to build up the soil around them. So we'll be doing that today. We also have an update on our English Comfrey from a few weeks ago. They're just starting to come out and develop, and they're about ready to go great guns and provide us with some chop and drop fertilizer in the future. The Blackberries have been corralled behind a lovely garden fence, and they are setting fruit right now. On our trellises, we planted some French marigolds, and we now have a few cucumbers on each one, so we should see some substantial growth on that over the next few weeks. The last cauliflower has been harvested, and we are now waiting for this plant to bolt so we can collect seeds for next year. Many of our other winter vegetables are also bolting, providing us with flowers and seeds for next year. The herb area is starting to really push forward and chase bugs away. This is a big deal, as we can grow just about anything that we need out here. And the white Dutch clover is starting to come in the very first patch that we laid. This has a great future in front of it, as it'll provide beautiful green mulch for the entire garden as we redevelop this area for a greenhouse. Again, we're only a week or so separated from planting this crop. Peppers everywhere, from serrano to habanero, and tomatoes in betwixt. We can harvest everything fresh once a week. We even have more tomatoes ripening for fresh sauce this week. Did someone say habaneros? We've got plenty. How about some homemade hot sauce? Fresh banana peppers coming in. And now let's plant some wildflowers. So now we've got a couple of planter boxes that are ready to get some new soil and be prepared for some pollinators. And we're just going to use some regular old wildflowers that you would normally just scatter across the desert lawn. One of the reasons to do this is to give, well, some pollinators an opportunity to feed year-round. And we do this in various locations in all seasons so that we can take care of our citrus trees and many of the other things that we have growing around the property. We start first with some harvested leaves. Now, leaves fall to the ground continually, and when you have citrus trees, they fall fairly regularly. Now, you can use cardboard if you don't have leaves as like your first layer, your first few inches in your planter box, and it's always a good idea just to have a decent amount, because it's all going to compact rather quickly. Many people say, don't do that. Don't put the leaves in the boxes. Don't start off with a carbon layer. Well, why not? You got to feed your soil at all levels, so why not start with your carbon layer at the bottom? A lot of people, when they build their compost pile, do it exactly this way, so why not us? This is not compost, but we want to keep our soil organisms really happy for the next several months. So let's give them some carbon to work with. Next up, we'll take our soil and fill up our planter beds. This is just a healthy mix of organic garden soil along with some black cow aged manure. Black cow is probably one of my favorite products when it comes to soil health. It's an aged manure, keeps all the life in the soil. A lot of the stuff you buy doesn't do that, and you want as much life as you can get in your soil. So as we move through a couple of buckets worth of this soil, again, the other thing you can add to this if you want to give it some bulk and add some drainage is some wet, very wet peat moss. Peat moss is good for retaining moisture, but you don't want to mix dry moss in with your soil. It'll dry the soil out. Do exactly the opposite of what you need it to do in the garden. And the final touch here is mixing in some worm castings so we can take advantage of every wonderful goodness that the castings give us. Since this is just basically immediate booster for anything that you want to plant. Your ratio when you do any kind of amending of any soil, you want to consider that your nitrogen is one of the dominant forces in plant growth and yield. And worm castings add basically 1.25 when you look at an NPK scale. So now that I've put my worm castings, my soil and everything in these boxes, which are actually really easy to build, just going to mix in the worm castings. I'm only going with the fork, I'm only going down about 1 inch to 2 inches at most. And again, we're just kind of stirring them into the situation here. And now we have to sow our seeds. And as I said, today we're just going to use wildflower seeds. Nothing spectacular about it. Pick them up at any hardware store, any nursery. We're going to direct sow as you can see here. In a direct sow, just sprinkle them in at random. We'll even use our garden fork to mix them into the soil and water them in. Anybody can do this. This is super simple gardening. You can even do it with potting mix, to be fair. Some people do that method and are very successful. You can also broadcast them into a yard as long as you don't have a lot of birds hanging out. And you can get wildflowers in the middle of your yard. I'm always overdoing it, but it's better than underdoing it. And I want a good healthy mix of desert flowers out here that bring in the pollinators to take care of all the other things in the garden area that need to have pollinators. Always give them a mix, an opportunity to go after whatever it is they prefer at that moment. It'll bring in more pollinators, as a matter of fact, especially if you have a good healthy bee population in the area. You can definitely support the bees and beekeepers, especially if you have a local honey operation, which there's one down the road not far away from here. Lots of citrus trees in my area. All right, there we go, all mixed in. And now it's time to water them in. Going to take advantage of watering some of the other flowers while I'm around here with my wand. Watering can works just fine for this. You don't need any kind of equipment like this. Just when you have a lot of garden space, these kind of wands are very helpful. Extra watering just go with the tree. And I figured while I'm at it, I might as well drop some more wildflowers in one of the vegetable beds that are for winter vegetables, such as the lettuces and everything else. So let's broadcast some wildflowers over here. We'll water those in. And with that, we should have some beautiful pollinators for all of our amazing insects. Again, you gotta always feed and take care of the workers, which means feeding the soil and taking care of the beneficial insects. Keep your population happy. And that's it for today's update on That Garden Place. Now, we went through what we did for some pollinators. Again, seasonal pollinators are important, especially if you have citrus trees and other plants and flowers that are going to rely on them throughout the summer. Wildflowers are an easy thing to take care of. And of course, we got some updates on some of the great projects we've tried in the last few weeks. Next time, we're going to be focusing in on some recipes, so you'll see some shorts about those coming up this week. And then we have another big long-form video for you next Saturday. Thanks for checking out this episode of That Garden Place. See ya.